Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Short Hops with manager Kevin Hooper. Short Hops is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, to ask the Wichita manager questions about the Wingnuts, baseball or sports in general, or just seek Kevin's wisdom about life or issues that may be going on with you. This week we have an exciting program for you as Kevin gives his ideas about the World Series and who he thinks is going to win. He talks to us a little bit about just things that are going on in baseball and his predictions for the Hall of Fame. And he shares with us a funny joke that his daughter gave to him recently. So let's get right to Short Hops. So let's welcome back manager Kevin Hooper this week. Kevin, let's first of all start. If you have any injury updates or team updates for us, we'd like to just begin there.
Yeah, thanks for having me as always, Robert. No, not a lot going on this week as we updated last week. Really nothing new. Just Jace Ray finalizing his contract with Boston. And I know he's really excited about that, as are we. So giving him this first opportunity at affiliated ball. So it'll be a fun winter, him getting himself prepared, and then a fun spring for him going to spring training with the Boston Red Sox. So we'll be keeping a close eye on everything with him. But other than that, not a whole lot going on.
Now, we had lots of people who wrote in and asked questions related to the World Series, so we're kind of lumping these together in two questions. So the first one we'll begin at is to give your analysis of each of the World Series teams and what you think are some great aspects of them and some areas maybe where they're not as good.
Well, obviously being a Midwest guy and born and raised in Lawrence, Kansas, I went to a lot of Royals games growing up. The K was about 45 minutes from my house, and we went to a lot of Royals games, and I remember Frank White being on top of the dugout, for a day game one time, and them giving a little clinic even. So, the Royals bring back a lot of memories for me. I grew up a Cardinals fan. I was such a huge fan of Ozzie Smith, and that was kind of my team. But I obviously followed the Royals being so close, being able to attend those games. So, it's awesome. I said last year, it's awesome for baseball. It's awesome for the Midwest, what they've done. It kind of came out of nowhere, and what they've been able to accomplish. But they're a team that I feel can do a lot of things really well. I give them a lot of credit. They're one of those teams that I feel are never out of the game. They'll make a run at things. Even that game they were down big to Toronto, they ended up coming back and making a game out of it. So, they can do a lot of different things really well. I think the Mets, what they do so well is pitch. They're starting pitching with Harvey DeGrom and Syndergaard. Those three are tough, and it's going to be interesting. Kansas City's going to have to pitch, no doubt about it, because, with those three guys going for the Mets, the runs are going to be precious. It's going to be pretty precious every time the Royals can get across home plate. So the Royals are going to have to pitch just to keep up with it, I think. And the way the Mets have been playing, it's been really well. So I'm looking forward to it. It should be a great matchup. I know I've mentioned many times Curtis Granderson being a good friend of mine, and obviously be pulling for him individually, but obviously pulling for the Royals as a team, being a Midwest guy.
Do you think it benefits Cueto now facing a National League team, because he seemed to struggle after coming to the Royals?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't think there's a big difference whether you look at National League, American League. I know, you can talk about the pitcher hitting, but that's only going to be when they're in the National League park. So, I don't know if it's going to be a huge difference. I just think he's kind of been up and down, and I think it's just timing for a lot of stuff like that. So we'll see how he fares. It'll be interesting because he's got a pretty fierce opponent on the other side on the bump in Harvey.
So what would be your prediction for the World Series?
Boy, that's tough for me to answer. It really is. Obviously, like I said, I gotta pick the Royals, being a Midwest guy and growing up watching them, but the Royals are going to have their hands full, no doubt about it, just because, like I said, the way that the Mets pitch, I always say good pitching beats good hitting any given night. The Mets can really do that. So it'll be an interesting series, and I hope we come across some good ball games.
Michael from Hayesville asks you, what are your thoughts about how well the Mets have played despite losing their shortstop?
Yeah, it's kind of like they just jumped on each other's back and said, okay, we're not going to let anything really phase us. Maybe they got a chip on their shoulder with what happened with Utley, and has kind of run with it. What Murphy's doing is phenomenal. I mean, that guy is locked in right now, and it's pretty special to watch. So, I thought the Cubs would give them a run for their money, and then they just go sweep them like it's nothing. So Kansas City is definitely going to have their hands full, but I think you can also say the Mets will have their hands full with Kansas City as well. So, as I said, and it has been impressive with the Mets, with with how they have been playing and how they've been doing things.
I bet you have to really like this kind of matchup because both teams are really fundamentally sound, really play hard,
Yes.
Your kind of teams.
No doubt about it. Definitely my kind of teams. Not, neither team's a big home run hitting ball club. I know they have guys that will run into a ball here and there, but they're very fundamentally sound, take advantage of their opportunities when the other team makes mistakes, and that's always fun, as you mentioned, especially for me watching, because that's the way we do things here.
Our next question comes from Owen from Wichita, who asks, during the Houston series, he heard a stat that said that a player on the Astros had the longest average home run this season. Aren't there simply too many stats in baseball?
There are quite a few, Owen. It's gotten out of hand, no doubt. I don't know if it's gotten out of hand. There's just so many with the analytical stuff that's going on. There's a lot of stats. Pretty much anything and everything. If you need to know something, you should be able to find it these days. So a lot more than there was in the past, that's for sure. And those stats just seem to be growing and growing every single year when it turns over. So, like I said, it's very, whether you want to say it's useful or not. I know a lot of teams do use those new stats and lean on those quite a bit when they're, scouting guys or making decisions on who they want or maybe who they want in free agency. So I think it's got a lot easier for those guys to look at numbers as opposed to maybe back in the day you're always looking at video or watching the guy up close and personal, where now you can lean on a lot of numbers, it seems, to get info that you need.
Owen, welcome to the computer age.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Lionel from Mays would like to know, first of all, Kevin, big fan, he wanted to give you first. So he wanted to know if you're expecting either Matt Navarez or Dakota Watts back next season.
Well, first of all, Lionel, I appreciate the support. Being a big fan, definitely, we really appreciate the support. But I'm not sure what Matty's deal is going to be. I would think, given the opportunity, I would hope that he'd get another shot at affiliated ball if that doesn't happen, because I continue to talk to scouts about him. His name comes up quite a bit. So hopefully he gets that chance again. If not, I think if he does play, it would be in Mexico where he could make some good money. If not, there's a chance maybe that he might shut it down. And Dakota, I'm not sure what's going to happen with him. He got signed there towards the end of the year. Had a pretty tough go at it, but it was in the Cal League, which a lot of guys, especially pitching side of things, have a tough go at it. So we'll see what happens with Dakota. I think he's a situation, if he is going to play indie ball, it's going to be nowhere else but Wichita.
Kevin from Wichita asked, I'm hoping this isn't you, by the way, Kevin from Wichita, but
it is not.
Don Mattingly removed by the Dodgers. Do you think that this was fair, that he was kind of forced out of the team, especially considering the team didn't really seem to spend their money wisely?
Well, it sounds like it was a mutual agreement between Don and the front office staff there, and from what it sounds like, what I read up on today, even again today, was he may not be without a job for long. It sounds like the Marlins are pretty high on him and vice versa. He's very interested in that job, so we'll see what happens with that. But fair or not, I've stated before on this show, I know that as a manager, you're judged on your wins and losses. And it sounds like he didn't get along with some players and even some front office folks, just digging into some things and reading up on some things. So, I think there were some issues there with Donnie and what went down. So whether it's fair or not, sometimes it just happens. And yeah, they didn't end up spending their money wisely, it didn't seem. But as I always say, when things happen and they don't go the right way, a lot of times it's going to fall on that manager. Win, lose, or draw, sometimes it doesn't matter.
Kevin, I'm kind of curious with Mattingly interested in the Marlins job, and maybe, I don't know if this is insight you even want to provide, but it seems like they talk a lot about in the media about how teams and players seem to be kind of down on the Marlins just because of how they really build up a team really well and then just trade away everybody. Is that a tough spot to want to go be a manager at, you would think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's probably a situation where, you try to feel everything out, and I'm sure Donnie's trying to feel if it's going to be a good situation for him. As you stated, if he's interested in that's a plan that they're going to do again. And, maybe he's thinking also, on the other hand, it can be a challenge. And, when you're in this game, I know I love a challenge. And, that's a big challenge sometimes, just dealing with, new faces at times, but you would hope if they find that right mix that they can build on it and let him run with what he has for a while. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, where he ends up, because he's a big name in the game of baseball, was as a player and now is as a manager. And it's not like he wasn't successful with the Dodgers either. He won a lot of ball games there. So we'll just wait and see what happens here with Miami, if anything.
David from Wichita would like to know who would be your choices for the in-season awards, so the Cy Young, MVP, and Manager of the Year awards.
All right, well, let's start with the biggest one, the MVPs. These are tough. I mean, I could go a lot of ways, but I think AL MVP's got to be Donaldson with what he did in Toronto. He ends up having quite a few, and Trout's right there too, but I think, Donaldson, he had I don't know how many exactly, but I know he had a decent amount more of RBIs than he did, and just a special year for Donaldson, what he did, and help lead that team to where they got. And so Donaldson's my AL MVP. Bryce Harper's my National League MVP. I mean, he was very, very good from start to finish, and I think that he's going to win that thing by landslide, I would think. We'll go to the Cy Young. Got to go Keuchel, Dallas for the Astros, and AL. The year he had was phenomenal, and what he kind of led that ball club to the postseason. And then the National League Cy, I think this is the toughest one. I'm going to say Arrieta for the National League Cy Young. If Greinke wins it, I wouldn't be surprised. If Clayton Kershaw won it, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think it's between Greinke and Arrieta. But I've got to go Arrieta with what he did the second half after the All-Star break was unheard of. He dominated, bottom line. No one could do anything with him, and he flat out dominated. And what was the
Manager of the Year?
What was the last one? Manager of the Year. That's kind of a tough one too. I think I would probably go. How about I go one from each league? I'll go Jeff Bannister for AL. What he did with the Rangers, I really liked what he did with the Rangers. And the National League, I mean, I'm a big Matheny fan, but I think you'd have to probably give it to Joe Madden and what he did with the Cubs. I mean, I don't think anybody expected him to just come over the first year and do what he did with all those young guys. So pretty impressive all the way around. It's always an exciting time of year to see who comes out on top with all those prestigious awards.
I have to say, I really like your choice of Bannister in the AL, because I don't think anybody saw Texas doing anything this year.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And, just watching him and how he goes about his business and listening to some of his press conferences, I'm a big fan.
Barry from St. Paul would like to know who you would select for the 2016 Baseball Hall of Fame class.
Well, I pulled up the list. I think Griffey's a no-brainer, I would think. Even being his first year on the ballot, right? I believe.
Yes, it is.
I would think Griffey's a no-brainer. And then you would think Piazza and Bagwell, the top two on the list that I got, would be guys that would get in. There's a lot of good names on that list, and then you've got your steroid guys and Clemens and Bonds and McGuire and some of those guys and Sosa. And you never know if they're going to get in. There's just so many good names in the game of baseball and so many options going into the Hall of Fame. But I think Griffey is a no-brainer, I would say, and then Piazza and Bagwell, I would think, at some point are going to get in as well. So interesting stuff always. And just looking at that list, it's a pretty impressive list I'm looking at in front of me.
What do you think about a guy like Trevor Hoffman?
Big fan, always was, and I think with a lot of these names, I think that there's an argument for so many of them. Hoffman. I mean, just the saves that he accumulated and just the career he had, phenomenal. I think he's definitely got to be the guy. And those first ballot guys, it's always interesting to see who goes in right away on those first year ballots. So, as I say, this is always a fun time every year where we get all these postseason awards and you get the Hall of Fame stuff coming out.
I'm kind of curious because you're a guy who always has a closer to you is an extremely valuable portion of your team that you build every year.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It seems like at the Hall of Fame, those guys don't really get a lot of respect. I'm looking at a guy like Lee Smith and thinking, why isn't this guy in the Hall of Fame?
Lee Smith, the guy, yeah, right. What, 478 career saves with a 3.03 ERA? I mean, that's pretty impressive. So, yeah, and I agree. You just don't, as important as they are, if you're not, I don't know. And Lee Smith was a big name, so I was going to say if you're not dominant and off the charts, which all of them are, it's tough to argue why that like a guy like Lee Smith isn't in yet. So good arguments for a lot of these guys, and it's always a fun argument, I know, for a lot of the broadcasters and everybody going into it.
Interesting. Claire from Wichita would like to know, do you find that the fundamentals of softball are a lot different than coaching baseball?
I do not. I think there's so many similarities in the two. And that's what I've come to realize, and I think you're seeing more baseball guys get into softball. So, no, I think that there's so many similarities. Of course, there are some differences, but I think there's way more similarities than there are differences for sure.
Heading into our NFL discussions for Kevin this week, we begin with Bill from Derby, who asked, Kevin, the Packers face the Broncos Sunday night, so who you got?
I got the Pack. First of all, I got the Pack for Jason Kemp, a radio guy.
Okay.
He's a huge Green Bay fan, and I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan, so I'm taking the Pack. Manning, I know we answered the question last week too of him fading a little bit, so I'll take the Pack in that one for sure. Should be a good game. I mean, that's going to be a heck of a matchup and a lot of fun to watch. Those are those games you look forward to every week.
One of these weeks, I'm going to ask you how Jason came up with his nickname Cheese. So we don't need to discuss that right now. Go ahead.
I can tell you real quick right now. It's just in him being from Wisconsin.
Oh,
and,
okay.
With being from Wisconsin, a lot of times you associate cheese. So one of the guys came up with it right away, and it kind of stuck. So he didn't. I don't know if he cared for it a ton at the beginning, but now he's all for it. So that's what everybody calls him, and he goes by.
Interesting.
It's kind of weird when you hear somebody call him Jason. So I guess it's kind of like when someone calls me Kevin as opposed to Hoop. So
True.
Yeah, I don't hear my first name a whole lot.
We have a couple of questions from Ian from the McConnell Air Force Base. The first one is that he wants to know why Greg Hardy continues to look like he doesn't belong in the NFL. Do you agree?
Yeah. Me and my professionalism, and he's far from it. So I know he got into it yesterday with a coach and the special teams, and then him and Des Bryant got into it too. And I don't know. I know emotions are going to show at times, but you got to control them and be able to control them. He's a professional. I mean, he's act like a professional. That's my thoughts on that.
Our second question from Ian asked, the Chiefs won on Sunday, and he was kind of upset that they did. Do you agree that it was bad?
That's a good one, Ian. Yeah. Actually, and my brother and I went to visit my brother in Kansas City this week, and we were kind of talking about the same thing, just hoping they're going to go 1-15 so they can get that first pick. And then they go out and beat Pittsburgh. So, yeah, who knows? Hey, and now, I mean, I guess you hope that maybe they can get on a little run, but it's going to be tough. More than tough, I should say. So it'll be interesting to see where they end up. I'll be anxious to talk about it at the end of the season, see where they end up with things.
Xavier from Wichita asks, are you getting excited about Wichita State basketball for this season?
I am. They're going to be pretty stellar again, I think. They got some really good young guys, some new guys that have come, and then obviously the returners they have from that team are pretty special. Ron Baker and Fred Van Vliet, the two of those guys leading the pack. So very excited. They're going to be very, very good. I know a lot of people have already predicted them to go undefeated again throughout the regular season. So, what Greg Marshall's done is pretty spectacular. He's kind of taken this town over, and what he's done pretty special. He's a wonderful coach, and I love watching him do what he does.
It's got to be pretty exciting too that he's got all kinds of other offers to go other places, but loves Wichita.
Yep. Yeah, he's found a home here, and he loves every bit of it. And hey, you won't hear anybody here complaining about it, so it's a good thing, and hopefully we can keep him locked up.
I bet. Nick from Garden Plains would like to know, is it hard to follow your faith in professional sports? He sees guys point to heaven when they cross home plate, but it always seems the culture makes it hard.
Yeah, I don't think it's tough. I really don't. I'm a Christian, and I don't think it's tough at all. We used to have Bible studies all the time, and I know some guys for even the teams that we've had here for the Wingnuts. I know some guys that help with Bible studies. We do chapel every Sunday, and I don't. Sometimes I think religion's always a tough topic for everybody, and I always kept my beliefs kind of at home and in check, and I know my faith and what it is, and that's all that matters, and I don't need to show everybody what it is. But no, I don't think it's terribly tough. I know that it could be, though. There's a lot of crossroads when you become a professional. A lot of negativity out there in the world, and things that can draw you from the straight and narrow, but and lead you in the wrong direction. So it can be tough, I guess I would say, but I don't think it's hard to follow it at all. It just depends on probably the person, how strong their faith is.
Knowing you the way that I do, you are a perfect example to me of what St. Francis said when he said, "Preach the gospel, and if necessary, use words." So it's the way you live it out that really shows. So absolutely, no doubt about it. It's and I've always said that in many things. It's the way you live it out and live your life and go about your business, for sure. We have a few Halloween questions for you here now. Debbie from Wichita would like to know, how much candy do you allow your kids to have from Halloween?
Well, they love candy. Pretty much everybody in our household has a sweet tooth, so we like candy. But my wife and I, Lindsay, we get their bags when they're done, and we go through all of it. We pretty much know what they like and don't, and kind of separate it and find a home for the stuff that they don't like, and we have a big basket that we keep for the stuff that they do. But it's just like a normal thing. It's not going to get out of control. We don't let them just eat whatever they want. We kind of monitor, and they're very good and well behaved in that aspect, where they're always asking if they can have a snack. So not too much. We no sugar highs here in the Hooper household, that's for sure. We don't need that.
That's a good idea. Robin from Andover would like to know, what's the best looking pumpkin you ever carved?
That's a tough one. You know what? It's been a little while since I've carved one. My father-in-law has kind of taken that over. He loves doing it, and the girls love picking out a design for him to do, and so he's kind of taken that over. But as a kid, we always carved him as a kid, and I never really had. We pretty much just did the basic pumpkin faces when I was little, and I always enjoyed doing it. It was always a fun process, those nights where you get together with your family and have a pumpkin carving night. So I remember those times, and those are moments that you never forget, that, you have a good time carving out those pumpkins and making those different designs on them, whatever you needed to, and drawing on them as well, coloring them any way you wanted to, and just kind of getting creative with things.
I personally just wanted the pumpkin seeds myself, but
I like pumpkin seeds myself.
Zach from Mays would like to know, do you have a story that scared you when you were a kid that is related to Halloween?
I really don't. I loved Kansas City has wonderful haunted houses down in the old warehouses and big buildings down there. Once I got into high school, and probably even in junior high, we'd take a trip down there and go to those. I didn't mind being scared. maybe because I was fast and I felt like I could get away. If I ever got scared or got into any kind of, trouble where I needed to run. So, maybe that's the deal. But, no, nothing too crazy that I remember about being scared in Halloween. There's always those times where somebody's going to jump out at you and scare you when you're least expecting it. So just those unexpected moments, I would say, where you're kind of caught off guard that'll make you jump.
So are you telling us that for future base dealers, haunted houses is the way to
haunted houses,
yeah, right. Excellent.
Yes.
Our last question comes from Wingnuts fan, who asks, Kevin, let's hear your favorite joke.
My favorite jokes are any joke that comes from my daughters.
Okay.
No doubt about it. I don't have one just favorite joke, but they love laughing and making mom and dad laugh. And it's funny, this came up tonight because my daughter, my youngest, Lainey, was actually reading a book to me tonight, and there's a joke in the book that she told me, and it was, why did the cookie go to the doctor? And it was because he felt crummy. So there's your there's your joke of the day, from my 7-year-old. So yeah, those are my favorites. Like I said, anything from my children and them giving mom and dad jokes, and not only making us laugh, but hearing your young ones laugh is pretty special. So, and she was cracking up tonight when she read that one. So that was perfect timing. So there's my joke for the night, and what a way to end our session tonight.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us again, Kevin.
Robert, thanks as always. Look forward to next week.
All right, see you then.
We want to thank manager Kevin Hooper for joining us on Short Hops this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Wichita Wingnuts manager, please send them to us at AskKevin@minorleaguesportsupport.com. That's AskKevin@minorleaguesportsupport.com. Please have your questions to us by Sunday evening so the skipper can have a little bit of time to review them before we record the show Monday evening itself. We're giving a little bit more time now that the NFL season is going along to give people a little bit more time to ask questions. So if you'd like to have your questions into us about what's related to that weekend's NFL action, please have it to us by Sunday evening. We want to thank you for joining us again on Short Hops this week. I'm Rob Pannier, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report, and we'll see you next week on Short Hops.